Welcome to the Tech Show. I'm Sonia Gavankar, and this week we see how big is too big when it comes to social media. We're testing out some quarantine life hacks, and a brand new gadget tries to take my money. All that and more coming up on the Tech Show. Now it's time for the latest. Minneapolis voted recently to ban the use of facial recognition software for its police department, growing the list of major cities that have implemented local restrictions on the controversial technology. After an ordinance on the ban was approved earlier, 13 members of the city council voted in favor of the ban with no opposition. The new ban will block the Minneapolis Police Department from using the facial recognition technology, including software by Clearview AI. That company sells access to a large database of facial images, many scraped from major social networks, to federal law enforcement agencies, private companies, and a number of U.S. police departments. The vote is a landmark decision in the city that set off racial justice protests around the country after a Minneapolis police officer killed George Floyd last year. The city has been in the throes of police reform ever since, leading the nation by pledging to defund the city's police departments in June before backing away from that commitment into more incremental reforms later that year. Banning the use of facial recognition is one targeted measure that can rein in emerging concerns about aggressive policing. Many privacy advocates are concerned that the AI-powered facial recognition system could not only disproportionately target communities of color, but that the tech has been demonstrated to have technical shortcomings in discerning non-white faces. Spotify is jumping on the remote work bandwagon in a big way, with an announcement that it will let its employees choose where they'd like to work, both for their preference of coming into the office or staying mostly at home, and their geographic location in the world. Spotify is calling the initiative Work From Anywhere and is describing it as a new way of collaborating that allows Spotifyers to work from wherever they do their best thinking and creating. Though this distributed first mentality, we are giving employees the opportunity to elect a work mode, whether they'd prefer to work mostly at home or in the office, as well as their geographic location. The company's blog post reads, Spotify says it will implement the new options this summer, and the choice of how often, if ever, an employee returns to the office will be decided by the employee in conversation with their manager and team. We'll be back in 30 seconds.
It took 3,500 flip-flops. Look at it, 3.5 months is how much time it took to make this amazing car.
celebrate Easter and the return of spring with festive food and drinks to liven us up. Chef Jamie Gwen is here to share tips and tricks for easy appetizers and for that Easter ham. She also has tips for making cooking and prep a breeze and, of course, fun stuff for the kids. Hello, Chef Jamie.
Chef Jamie Gwen here, ushering in spring with good eats. Ham is a must at Easter, and my go-to is Kentucky Legend for a few reasons. It has fabulous flavor. It's double smoked. It's the nation's #1 natural juice ham, and it's easy. Just heat and eat. They have a variety of sizes and smoke flavors for every gathering, and it'll add that delicious smoky flavor to your favorite dish or appetizer. Here's a unique spin on a holiday appetizer. These muffin pan quiche cups made with Pearl's sliced black ripe olives are the perfect individual brunch delight. And people who love olives love and trust Pearl's. 100% grown and packed in sunny California and picked at the peak of freshness. I love that Pearl's is committed to keeping jobs in the US and ensuring the highest quality olives in their cans, cups, and jars. Now, if you're ready for some fun, this may look like an ordinary marshmallow, but one bite reveals a creamy, sweet milk chocolate core. This is a stuffed puff, a milk chocolate filled marshmallow that adds absolute fun to an Easter egg hunt. They make an amazing s'more too. And for a quick hack at home, you just pop one into the microwave for 7 seconds and you have instant gratification s'mores. So good. And you don't have to be a mixologist to whip up a delicious cocktail for the spring season. All you need is the new release from Smirnoff, 0 sugar infusions, lemon and elderflower. With a splash of soda, it's delicious. The citrus flavor and subtle notes of elderflower come through perfectly. I make a spring-inspired Moscow Mule as well with strawberries and lime using the world's #1 vodka, Smirnoff #21 vodka, of course. For more information and all these tasty recipes, visit dailylounge.com. Back to you.
Thanks, Chef.
The Biden is here, and one of the many things he has to wrestle with is how to deal with the huge social media empires that help shape public opinion. Regardless of political leanings, no one on Facebook or Twitter or the rest can avoid facts, spin, or falsehoods. So what do we do? Well, that's why we're going to ask Chris Haynes, Associate Professor of Legal Studies and Political Science at the University of New Haven. And he joins us today. Hello, Chris.
Thank you for having me.
How is a social media company different than a publication or a website when it comes to spreading false information?
Thank you for that question. So the primary difference for social media companies is that, as you might know, they don't really create the content that the journalists cover that other television stations do that are hosted on their platforms. So while websites and publications will actually curate and create content itself, social media companies just host this content. And so they really use this distinction to justify this liability exemption from getting sued and argue that they shouldn't be held responsible for content that are posted on their sites. And so this could include things like spreading false information. Yes.
So people often cite the First Amendment. Does that have anything to do with this?
Well, yes and no. With respect to private company regulation, so if you're thinking about Facebook or Twitter, right, their ability to regulate or to moderate the conversations that are hosted on their platforms is very little. The First Amendment does not apply to private organizations like that. It only applies to government. So you're protected from government with the First Amendment. That said, if you're thinking about government regulation of either the content or of those social media regulations or social media companies, then the answer is potentially yes.
I always have to remind people when it comes to the First Amendment, the first words are Congress shall make no law, not Facebook shall not make no law.
Yes.
Does the federal government have any obligation to regulate social media companies, and are there any parallels to other industries?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. Kind of a normative question. So I really don't, as a professor, don't like to answer questions about opinion, but Others could say that that to protect the public from things like terrorism, from to keep the public safe from misinformation that some argue erodes the pillars and the institutions of democracy, or inciting violence, like we saw the other day, are noble and just and important causes. So you could definitely say that the federal government might have an obligation to do this. In terms of parallels with other industries, this is slightly different than you would, again, compare this to broadcast television, which is regulated by the FCC. That's really, really different. Since social media platforms don't generally create their content, again, they contend that they're really not responsible for what users produce and are thus exempt from libel, defamation, and other laws and regulations that really govern traditional media like newspapers or television. So if government does not regulate speech, then it gives social media giants like Facebook and Twitter really a lot of control over regulation. That can also be concerning. So in the political sphere, this can lead to conflicts of interest and serious ramifications when certain companies choose what and what not to allow or really take down.
Okay, so I'm going to give you the power and we're going to put you in charge. What kind of regulations would you want to see? And would those regulations differ between Twitter and Facebook, for example?
So let me take the last question first. And the answer is probably not a lot of variation when you think about the major proposals in terms of how we can regulate these social media companies out there. That said, again, I really don't want to tell you what I think should be done because there are a lot of different options here. I can give you some of those options. So in terms of the different types, there are a number of different types of regulations that are being considered by Congress, by others that are trying to propose regulations for social media companies like Facebook and Twitter. And so one would be to mandate disclaimers and disclosure requirements for political ads. This could change the way this could result in transparency and really influence social media companies to want to rein in some of the more negative or bad elements that are being posted on their websites, because the public would be involved and be able to see exactly what they're doing. Another option, second option, would be to mandate other transparency and review of moderation policies. As you all know, Facebook kind of just came out with new ways to moderate, and Twitter, the content that gets posted on their platforms. And so, for instance, Donald Trump, a lot of his tweets were labeled or taken down as false. Congress could also pass this kind of legislation that requires social media companies to enhance the transparency of their content moderation processes like this, conduct periodic risk assessments that really look at how these rules and recommendations help spread deceptive propaganda and information or other harmful content, and explore suitable mitigation strategies in cooperation with government agencies. So that's the second way. I'll just tell you a third way is to mandate social media crisis protocol to contain the spread of misinformation. So in specific circumstances, when the information that's put on their platforms have the potential to threaten the public or national security or public health, what do these companies do? What does Facebook do in this situation? Government could mandate that these companies have crisis management plans.
So people also talk about slippery slope. If we start one thing, it's going to lead to another. So what is the downside when it comes to regulation?
There are a couple of downsides. So first, these regulations could limit good, quote unquote, good, as well as bad speech, right? It really depends on how these regulations are crafted and how they're applied. Secondly, regulations could also increase startup or operating costs for these social media companies, and creating conditions here that favor larger, more established, richer companies like Facebook and Twitter, and really disincentivize other companies to come in and compete with them.
Thanks so much for all of the great insight into this, and thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Pleasure to be here.
More of the Tech Show coming up right after this. A year into quarantining and masking, and some of our basics are still hard to find. Brendan Taylor takes on TikTok quarantine hacks so you don't have to in this week's Life Hacks. Do or dump.
Oh my God, there's nothing left. But good thing we have the TikTok life hacks, and as you know, on this series, we test to find out, are they real or fake? There's only one way to find out, and that's by testing them. Come on. Some of us are bougie. Some of us like to wipe our booties with wet wipes. That rhymed. Look, if you have a baby at home or you just like to simply wash yourself with a wet wipe, you already know that they're completely sold out of everywhere. Well, what if I were to tell you that I can make them at home, easily and effortlessly? Okay, so if this one actually works, this might be the ultimate life hack, because we all know wiping with this, that ain't gonna be pretty. So what I'm about to do is I'm about to cut this in half, and I'm about to sacrifice a full good paper towel roll, so hopefully this works, and hopefully this TikTok doesn't bust on me. We've already been boiling 2 cups of water over here, and now we're gonna add some other essentials to make this soft enough for your bum and to basically turn it into a wet wipe. So first thing we're gonna add to this is a tablespoon of baby oil, a tablespoon of Aveeno baby wash and shampoo. Next we need to add in a tablespoon of baby lotion, but not all of us have baby lotion, so I'm gonna use some moisturizing face lotion, which oh God! What the heck is happening, Jake? Some lotion. And then we're gonna stir our concoction up a bit. Really get everything cooked into this water. So now that we made this milky concoction, we're gonna pour it in here. Take out the inner tube, let it cool for a few minutes because you don't want to burn your fingers. So all you gotta do is just pull it out, peel it off.
Oh wow.
And voila, you got yourself a wet wipe. And keep in mind, this was all like baby material, so it's super safe for your skin. You don't have to worry about your skin drying out. If anything, you're soothing your face and your booty, whatever you're using this for, and honestly, you made it at home. So I'm gonna have to say this one is a success. Not only does it feel good on my skin, but it smells great.
As the weather begins to warm and farmers markets start to open, many of us are looking for simple ways to freshen up our spring table. Here to help with some spring brunch pairings suggestions is expert sommelier Theo Rutherford, who is also the training and brand education manager for Deutsch Family Wine and Spirits. Welcome, Theo. Why is choosing the right wine or cocktail so important for a spring brunch?
Where the wines and cocktails are concerned, they're actually going to help elevate the flavors of the food that you want. So especially if you have berries that are working in donuts or smoked salmon, you can actually use those wines to elevate some of those flavors, taste some of those fresh ingredients even more now that we're coming out of hibernation for winter, and it's going to really elevate those spring menu items that you might be able to use. And I'm here today to tell you about different ways to brighten up your spring brunch table. So first of all, we have Josh Prosecco and Josh Prosecco Rosé that you can use to make your own mimosa bar. I really like using the Prosecco Rosé with a little bit of grapefruit juice, and it pairs perfectly with fresh baked donuts or fresh baked muffins. Next, you can't have a brunch table without eggs. So I like making a frittata, especially with local seasonal ingredients. You can throw those in the frittata, add a nice hard cheese to it, and you're gonna want something that has just a nice zippy acidity, which you're gonna get with this layer cake Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand. Now, lox and schmear, very typical, very classic brunch ingredient. With that, you want something that's going to be a little bit lighter, a little bit brighter. So for me, I go with the Fleur de Paris Rosé because it's nice, it's bright, and it honestly makes me want a second bite of that lox and schmear. And then last but not least, you can't have brunch without bacon. And so the way that you can make as much bacon as you want is making as many of these cocktails as you can using Redemption Rye. So what you're going to make is called the All the Way. You can take those ingredients from your mimosa bar, transfer them into that whiskey, so add equal parts lemon and grapefruit juice, a little bit of grenadine for color and just a touch of sweetness, and then top it off with a lemon bitter soda. And what that's going to give you is a nice bitterness. It's going to have the spiciness of the whiskey that's in there, and it's going to make your BLT or Monte Cristo or anything that has bacon on it just delicious. So for more information, you can go to joshcellars.com to see all the Prosecco and all the wonderful varietals that we have where Josh is concerned, or you can go to your local retailer. All of these should be available there. Ask for these brands by name, and they should be able to help you out.
Thank you for joining us today, Theo.
We have one final break, then we're back with Take My Money right here on The Tech Show. Stay with us.
It's the Jet Set's Win Now, Travel Later giveaway. Enter to win at thejetset.tv/free trip to win now and travel anytime in the next 2 years. Hurry, contest ends soon.
Now it's time for Take My Money, where this week I guess we can UV our water now.
Can you trust your bottle is completely safe? Studies by microbiologists found that reusable bottles are a perfect breeding ground for illness-causing bacteria. Don't give up. Now there's a way to get fresh, clean water without smelly bottles or polluting plastics. Introducing Orin, the self-cleaning water bottle that purifies your water in seconds. With Orin, you can carry pure water with you wherever you go. How does it work? Orin uses UVC technology to clean itself and purify your water. The 280 nanometer UV light is designed to naturally eliminate 99.9% of bacteria and contaminants.
I try not to think about how disgusting our reusable bottles might be during the day, but with Aeron, I can actually do something about it. Aeron, if you're making water safer to drink in 30 seconds, go ahead and take my money. Take it slowly out of the gun. There it goes. Thanks for joining us this week. Join us at the Tech Show TV and join the conversation. Tech you later.